Really wanted to talk about some deer calling. This is the perfect time of the year to do so. And when I mean that is, this first point is when. And there's a number one rule. I'm going to talk about some basics here, but it's really important to follow these. And at the end here, we'll talk about this number one golden rule of calling, which is so important. And it's something I've messed up on even just a few years ago. I messed up on a really big 170-inch to 80-inch class buck and really messed up. And I'll talk about that at the end. But, this first point, when. And that's why right now, when we're looking at in October and middle of October, a lot of you are saying, well, my season's already been open a month or 2 weeks or a week, whatever it is. And the reason I say now is a great time is because really in the early season, we're really not calling much. I'm of the mentality that I really don't like to call much at all. And it's because I come from a high-pressured state. I come from Michigan, I hunt Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Minnesota, high hunting number states. When you have 400,000 bow hunters, 200,000 bow hunters, compared to Kansas is 25,000, Iowa 65,000. Kentucky has 200,000 hunters, bow and gun combined. When you have these numbers in the upper Midwest, deer get educated to calling really fast, no different than turkeys. Turkeys are the same way. I'm sure elk, I've never elk hunted. So when you call too much, when you call in the early season, then you're really putting yourself out there for leading to failure. So really, when it comes to saying when to call, when you're calling in the early season, a lot of times you can do more harm than good. So let's go through here. We have rattling antlers right here. And I have this little rattle bag, kind of interesting. I've used this on public land when I just wanted to throw it in a pack, go a long ways, but you can still imitate two bucks sparring. And, when that being said, I don't see, this bang just that they're going back and forth. These are not rams and goats. These are more like a tickle. And sometimes they can get aggressive. I really like that. Some of the tricks I've had is I can take these rattling antlers over here that are on a rope. These are from antlers long ago. And I lost my original set of antlers. They were stolen out of a shed I had in the UP of Michigan. And I found a set of sheds and found that these were about the same size, and I like these. They're not too big. You can get on Imagine with these. And I'll talk about when to use these. But I really liked attaching these when I was in a tree stand down to my bow rope. And so what I would do is go through a rattling sequence, and I would drop these down to my bow rope, down to the base of the tree, away from the metal stand or anything. And I could actually get these on the ground and scuff them back and forth in the dirt, leaves, and brush. And it would sound like two bucks at least sparring. So if something was coming in, if I wanted to just tickle them a little bit, it'd more mimic the sound down on the ground, down at the base of the tree. Doe bleat. And I'm going to see, I think this is the right one right here. We'll see. Doe bleat. Very non-invasive. This is something deer make these noises all the time. Antlers. Very aggressive. And even more so aggressive, and this won't be exactly perfect. I'm taking a grunt tube, tipping it backwards, but a snort wheeze. That's a buck. He's really warning another buck. He's very aggressive. And there's a lot of big, old, mature bucks that'll hear that snort wheeze, and I could have added that to here, and go running. So if you have a big, giant buck on the other side of the field and nothing's working, he's not coming over, a snort wheeze may bring him, or more likely, it'll send him running because he didn't get that to that age, not just by avoiding calls, but by avoiding fights with mature bucks. A more aggressive buck, to me, dies when they're a lot younger. And that is the same could be said for rattling antlers. This isn't Texas. This isn't big hill country or large hardwoods where there's not a lot of hunters. And even then, when it comes to antlers, I'm looking at more, maybe a little tickling during mid-October leading up to the pre-rut. But I don't think that really brings a lot of deer in at that time of the year. Could, there's always the exception. But I'm really focusing on antlers, and even during the pre-rut. Pre-rut's easy for a buck to find a doe. A lot of does are starting to come in to estrus right at the end of pre-rut, right at peak rut. And so every buck gets invited to the party and finds a doe. So why do they want to go pick a fight and find one? So when you start talking peak rut, which around here in Wisconsin, more like November 5th, November 4th, November 2nd, November 7th. Not the 15th of November. That's not peak. That's in the post. Post rut is a great time to rattle too, because those big old bucks don't want to give it up. They want to keep moving around. They want to keep rutting. They want to find does. That's when it's harder to find a doe, but not in the early part of the rut. So you can actually, again, you find a non-aggressive buck, which is a lot of times why they get to that age, then you over and more aggressively rattle and they're gone. I just like a nice sequence where anything around could hear, a little fighting back and forth, and then hang it up. And a lot of times I'm grabbing a grunt call. And when I grab that grunt call, then I'm waiting. And I'll take a grunt call. I like these more rubber grunt calls that sound a little bit more natural, more guttural. But this is something that is very low impact too, just like a bleed call. Very, very low impact. And of course they have the can. You know, if you're right here. For really low impact. These are some handmade calls right here. We had a viewer, client send these to us, and these are really awesome. So I love having these right here. And for the person that sent these, please put your information in the description if people want these. You know, unfortunately, we haven't taken them out in the woods. They're too pretty, so I hang them over here for decoration. I love having them. They're right beside this board. Every time we shoot a video, podcasts are always in there. So please put your information down below with those. And we'd love to hear, and I'm sure our listeners and viewers would love to hear about that too. But grunt call, I carry a grunt call in the woods with me at all times. Bleat call, I'm looking at that when a buck is searching for a doe, again, peak rut, post rut especially, might bring them over. But I carry a grunt call because I have nothing to lose. The mature buck is going by at 60 yards, I have my bow, he's going the wrong way, just take that out, give it a couple. Keep in mind, a good grunt call, a buck's probably only going to hear it 50, 60, 70, 80 yards away if it's quiet at the most. This is a very low impact call. And I'll talk about the number one rule. It's really important. I use this all season. Bleat, I don't think it hurt all season. I just don't think it's effective, so I don't carry it out. I don't like to carry, I'm a minimalist when I go hunting. I don't carry a giant pack. I don't carry a bunch of stuff with me, snacks, food. I want to go in, get out. I want to get to my tree stand, get up. I don't want to change at the base of my stand. I don't want to do anything when I'm in the stand other than just strap in, sit down, shut up, not move, and blend. And blending is key. That's why I don't like blind calling. Rattling. You can rattle. But if bucks are used to people in the area and you have that super shy buck, almost every buck, even a super shy, non-shy, they're going to circle downwind of you. So they get downwind of you, they pick you out, and it ruins your spot, ruins your hunt before it even begins. And that's a big problem with calling, with rattling antlers, and even blind calling. There's people who say, well, just call every 20 minutes, half hour, and something might come by. Well, a lot of times, if you don't see the deer, that means they can probably circle downwind of you a lot of times. When I rattle, I like to have my downwind blocked, a cliff, a swamp, a horse pasture where they're not going to go out in the open during the daylight. Something so that my downwind is blocked. They're not going to get downwind to me. And with a grunt call, they can do the same thing. So if they're 70 yards away, they happen to hear that, and they're coming in, and they can circle around you because you have thick brush downwind of you, which you shouldn't, because a deer can get in there, and it might hurt your stand just otherwise too. Then I'm not using it. So rattling antlers more middle of rut to end, maybe the second rut too. Grunt call whenever they're walking by. I rarely snort wheeze. That's a Hail Mary for a buck that's just not coming in. He's a long ways away. We'll just see if it works. I have snort wheezed a buck in, and there are two bucks fighting. They're snort wheezing. They're about 200 yards away. I snort wheezed back at them, and I had a buck off to the side 100 yards away snort wheeze from me. Completely different buck. He actually came in, and it took so long to come in making rubs and scrapes that he came in under my stand after dark. I could just see big bone and antlers. It was a pretty cool experience. And I don't like, again, blind calling because I don't know where they're going to come from. I don't think it's that effective. A little bit different rattling antlers, but in general, I'm not blowing this grunt call. I'm not just bleating all the time. I want a buck that's not coming towards me to come over to me. Again, I like the blend, but the number one rule, and this is what I messed up on several years ago on a big one, is once you grunt, That buck is walking by, he's looking for a doe. If it's in peak rut, post rut, second rut, good chance he's going to come over. And you might even notice his subtle clues. He's going to come over. You make this. He stops, snaps his head toward you, looks your way. Put this away immediately. He already's figured out you're there. In his brain, he's registering there's a buck over there. A lot of times he'll fool you a little bit. He'll make a scrape. He'll make a rub. He'll even take a couple steps the wrong direction. All of a sudden, he just leans and he starts walking your way. If during that time, he's already kind of made his mind up, I'm going over there, but I'm going to show him tough. Hair might even bristle on the back of his neck. He's going to make a rub, scrape. He's already going your way. What's the worst thing you can do? 2 minutes later, he's going to come your way. He knows you're there. You go like this. Let alone if you mess up, you make a weird noise or something with it, you blow too hard on it, too light. The bottom line is you do that, now he snaps his neck, looks directly at you, knows something's up. And you got to think of when you first grunt, he's got stuff on his mind. You might even be making a rub, he's walking. Not quite, he's pretty sure that's a buck. But when you blow this and he's already paying attention to the exact spot it came from, and you blow it again, then that over-calling of that second time, you got a good buck coming in with antlers. He's making his way to you. I think sometimes they can hang up and they're just kind of playing around, especially a different sound where you just let out one little soft grunt. But as soon as they pay attention and they know what direction you are, just put the call away. And that'll do you the best service. And really, that's the number one aspect of calling, is over-calling. Whether you're using rattle and antlers too early, whether you're using snort wheezing and you're spooking most of the deer that hear it. I mean, it sounds good on TV. You'll see some of the hunters on the Outdoor Channel or some of the big deer hunting shows. They're using a snort wheeze and they come right in. Folks, this isn't Iowa or Kansas for most of us. Big Kansas river bottoms open where deer can hear it from 100 yards away and you're using a decoy. Even decoys can really hurt you, because if you're just going in a place of normal deer movement, the first doe or fawn that goes by there and blows, you ruin the rest of your sit. So I don't use decoys. Again, I'd rather blend. And if you're overcalling, you're doing the opposite of blending into the woods, and it can really hurt you. Again, once you have their attention, put the calls away, slowly get ready for the shot, and let him come in and turn your big buck dreams into reality. That's going to be the number one calling technique, whether it's not using the rattle and antlers most of the year, maybe never using a snort wheeze unless you have that tool. I've usually used my hand, just something like that, practice a little bit. It doesn't take much. And again, even then, if they hear you and look your way, just stop calling. Let them come. And that could be your number one rule for calling deer going into the year, this season, and beyond. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. You're our best followers. You followed all the way to the end of the video. Really invite you to check out our website. We have our earthway spreaders for sale, great Christmas presents. We're booking clients right now, all 5 of us. So by the end of December, it seems early, but by the end of December, our schedule will be booked for 2025. It's hard to believe. I'm already booked for December and most of January, February. We have our web classes, the rut web class, how to design your whitetail property, and really important, hunting hills and thermals, understanding the wind. Those are great products on our site, all the books. Thank you so much for watching all the videos, buying the seed that you did this year. Really appreciate you.